When I first started dating Emily, she seemed perfect. She was warm, funny, and always made me feel like I was her priority. Her family also welcomed me with open arms, and in those early days, I thought I had struck gold not just with her, but with the sense of belonging her family offered. Emily and I dated for 2 years before moving in together. I had a stable career in IT consulting, made decent money, and lived responsibly. She was still figuring things out career-wise, jumping between jobs, but I didn't mind. I thought relationships were about balance. Sometimes one person carried more weight until the other caught up. Soon after moving in, I noticed subtle things. For example, whenever her parents visited, Emily would casually mention how well off I was. She'd highlight the trips we took, the car I drove, even the upgrades I made to our apartment. At first, I brushed it off as pride. Maybe she just wanted to show me off. But slowly, it became clear there was something deeper. Her brother needed help with rent after losing his job, and Emily asked if I could spot him a few $100s. Her mom suddenly had medical bills that insurance didn't cover. Emily nudged me to help, saying I was like family now. And her dad? He needed a short-term loan for his business. Each request seemed small on its own, but they piled up. And every time, Emily framed it as, "You're proving how much you love me by helping my family." I didn't realize it then, but I was being groomed to be their personal bank account. The breaking point came when I overheard a phone call. Emily had left her phone on speaker while she was in the shower. Her mom was on the line laughing about how I was a keeper, because I was generous and easy to convince. Her brother chimed in about how once Emily and I got married, my money would basically be part of the family's. I froze. My stomach dropped. It wasn't just Emily taking advantage of MIT, it was a coordinated plan, and she was in on it. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I started quietly pulling back. I stopped paying for her family's requests. I moved some of my money into a separate account. Most importantly, I began planning my exit. If Emily and her family thought I was an endless wallet, they were about to get the shock of their lives. After overhearing that call, I felt like my entire relationship was a lie. Every laugh, every "I love you," every moment where I thought Emily truly cared suddenly, it all felt like a performance to keep me hooked. But instead of exploding with anger, I chose patience. If they saw me slip away slowly, maybe they'd tighten their grip. I wanted them blindsided. So, I started playing along. Emily asked if I could help her brother again, because he was really struggling, smiled and said, "Not right now, but maybe next month when my finances are better." She looked surprised. I rarely said no before. Then I added, "I'm thinking about investments, so I need to be careful with money." That little seed worked perfectly, Emily reported back to her family. No, because I later caught a text from her mom saying, "Don't worry. Once you're married, you'll have access to everything." It was proof that the wedding was their finish line, and I was their golden goose. I realized then that I couldn't just walk away quietly. I needed to protect myself fully, so I made sure the lease renewal on our apartment was in my name only. I shifted all joint expenses to separate accounts and forgot to add Emily as a co-signer on anything. Meanwhile, I acted like everything was normal. I took Emily on dates, surprised her with small gifts, and played the part of the doting boyfriend. All while in the background, I was pulling together receipts, texts, and bank records that showed just how much I had already given to her family. I wanted a paper trail not just to protect myself legally, but also to remind myself I wasn't crazy. The more I dug, the angrier I became. In 2 years, I had spent thousands on her family. Rent payments for her brother, medical bills for her mom, a loan for her dad's so-called business that I never saw again. And then, the smaller things, groceries, when they forgot their wallets, Uber rides, phone bills, all added up. But the true slap in the face came when Emily started pushing for us to get engaged. She'd leave magazines open on the coffee table, showing rings. She'd joke about us living in a bigger house, somewhere closer to her parents. And one night she said, "Once we're married, everything will be easier. My family can really rely on us." Except what she really meant was me. That night, I looked at her while she was scrolling through her phone, smiling like everything was perfect, and I knew I couldn't waste another day. It wasn't just about protecting my money anymore. It was about protecting my sanity, my dignity, and my future. The plan was simple. she would never see me leave. The first step of my plan was subtle withdrawal. Emily was used to me being her yes man, always available, always paying, always willing to fix every problem her family dumped on her. So I started pulling back. When her mom called asking if I could spot them another $500 because her dad's car broke down, I told Emily, "Sorry, I can't right now. I've been saving for something important." She frowned, but didn't push. A few weeks later, her brother came by our apartment unannounced, looking for me. He asked if I could cover his rent just this once, because he was in a tough spot. I shook my head and said, "I've got my own bills. I can't do that anymore." His jaw literally dropped. By then, I knew they were getting nervous. Emily started hovering around me more, asking questions about my job, my savings, even my retirement plans. She tried to phrase it playfully, but I could tell she was reporting back. I had seen too many messages between her and her mom to mistake it for anything else. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, I was preparing my exit. I found a new apartment under my name only, signed the lease quietly, and began moving small items there, piece by piece. When Emily was out with friends or visiting her parents, toothbrush, spare clothes, important documents all gone from our shared space without her even noticing. I also contacted my bank and removed Emily as an authorized user from my credit card. That was the hardest step to hide because she used to shop with it, telling me she'd pay me back later. She never did. So when she tried to swipe it one Saturday at the grocery store and it declined, she was furious. "Why isn't this working? Did you cancel it?" she asked, glaring at me. I shrugged and said, "Fraud alert. Maybe I'll handle it." I kept my tone calm, but inside I was smiling. The cracks in her control were beginning to show. The final piece of the puzzle was timing. I waited until Emily had a planned weekend trip with her best friend. 2 full days. That gave me the perfect window. The moment she left, I moved the rest of my belongings into my new apartment, cleaned out my accounts, and left a simple note on the counter. It read, "Emily, I know everything. The money, the lies, the family. You were never honest with me, and I deserve better. Do not contact me. Do not follow me. We're done." I turned my phone off after sending one last message to my landlord, confirming Emily would no longer be living in the unit. By the time she came back, the apartment was empty. Her keycard didn't work, and I was gone. The first text I got when I turned my phone back on 2 days later wasn't even from Emily, it was from her mom. "How dare you do this to our family? You owe us after everything we've done for you." That was the moment I knew they weren't sad about losing me. They were furious they had lost their ATM. The flood of messages that followed was overwhelming. Emily called me at least 50 times within the first day, alternating between crying, begging, and yelling. Her texts were a mess of contradictions. "I love you. Please come back," followed by "You're selfish and ruined everything." Her family wasn't any better. Her mom sent me paragraphs about how a real man supports his partner's family, and that I should remember all the dinners they invited me to, as if a few barbecues somehow equaled the thousands of dollars I had quietly poured into their pockets. At first, I didn't respond. I ignored every call, every message, every email. But when Emily showed up at my job, I realized silence wasn't going to be enough. She came storming into the parking lot during my lunch break, tears streaking down her face, shouting at me in front of my coworkers, "You abandoned me. You abandoned us. How could you walk away after everything we've been through?" she cried. I kept my voice calm, but loud enough for people nearby to hear. "Emily, you and your family used me. I saw the messages. You admitted it to them, that I was just a bank account to fund your life. I'm done being treated like a paycheck with legs." Her face went pale, and I knew instantly she hadn't expected me to air that truth in public. One of my coworkers raised an eyebrow. Another whispered something under her breath. Emily stammered, That's not true." They twisted my words, but the damage was already done. That night, her brother texted me from a new number, threatening to pay me a visit if I didn't do the right thing and give them money. That was my breaking point. I printed out copies of the text messages I had saved their demands for cash. Emily's conversations with her mom, even the ones where they laughed about how easy it was to manipulate me. The next day, I sent everything to Emily with a single line. "This is why I left. Don't ever contact me again." I also sent copies to a trusted mutual friend who had always been skeptical about Emily, but never had proof. Within hours, the story started spreading through our social circle. Suddenly, I wasn't the villain. Emily was. Of course, her family doubled down. They tried to spin the story, saying I was delusional or making things up. But when friends confronted Emily directly, she crumbled. She admitted, half crying, half shouting, that yes, her mom suggested she make the most of my generosity. Yes, she asked me to cover her brother's debts. Yes, she told her family I was secure enough to handle it. That confession was the nail in the coffin. Almost overnight, Emily went from playing the victim to being exposed as the manipulator she truly was. For the first time in years, I felt free. After Emily's meltdown and the truth spilling out, I thought maybe, just maybe, things would quiet down. I had blocked most of her family's numbers, ignored emails, and stopped checking social media as much. For a while, it seemed like I could finally breathe. But I should have known better. People like Emily don't just let go. A week later, I got a call from my boss asking me to step into his office. My stomach dropped, thinking maybe Emily's family had found another way to get to me. Sure enough, he looked uncomfortable as he explained that someone had emailed HR claiming I was harassing and financially exploiting Emily. I almost laughed right there. The irony of it. They were flipping the story to make me the villain. Luckily, I had already spoken with my boss about the situation in case something like this happened. I calmly handed him the folder I had prepared with all the text messages, screenshots, and proof of what had really gone down. His response was simple. "Don't worry, we've got your back." That reassurance was all I needed. Their attempt to ruin my job failed before it even started, but Emily wasn't done. The following weekend, she showed up at my apartment building. I didn't let her in, but she stood outside, yelling up at my window like something out of a bad movie. She shouted about how she'd changed, how she didn't mean to hurt me, and how love should conquer everything. My neighbors gathered, whispering and recording her on their phones. Embarrassed, she eventually left, but not before slipping a letter under the door. The letter was a mess of apologies and manipulations. She admitted her mom had encouraged her to see me as an investment. She said she only went along with it because she felt pressure from her family. Then she shifted the blame again, claiming I was too stubborn for not understanding how families help each other. Reading that, I realized nothing would ever change. Even now, she couldn't take full responsibility. She wanted me to forget everything, sweep it under the rug, and keep funding her family's lifestyle. So, I decided to end it once and for all. I blocked every last number, changed my locks, and even spoke to a lawyer about getting a restraining order if she kept showing up. The final blow came a few weeks later when I heard from a mutual friend that Emily had tried to start dating again. Her reputation had been shredded. People knew the story now. Nobody wanted to be with someone who saw relationships as a business transaction. As for me, I finally felt at peace. No more demands for money. No more manipulation. No more fake love. The irony is, Emily thought she was securing her future by using me. Instead, she destroyed it. And me? I walked away lighter, stronger, and finally free. In the months that followed, life felt almost unfamiliar, but in the best way possible. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells, waiting for the next guilt trip, manipulation, or financial favor disguised as love. My evenings were my own again, my paycheck was mine, and my thoughts were no longer clouded by Emily's voice demanding more. I spent that time rebuilding myself. I picked up hobbies I had let go of when Emily consumed all my energy. I started hiking again, traveling on weekends, and even signed up for a photography class. Slowly, I remembered what it felt like to live for myself instead of living for someone else's expectations. Friends who had watched me go through the storm became my support system. They were relieved I was finally free. One of them said something that stuck with me. "You didn't lose her. You dodged a bullet. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized they were right. What felt like heartbreak at first turned out to be liberation. Of course, Emily and her family tried a few more times to pull me back in. I got the occasional email, usually long and dramatic, saying how they had changed or how family doesn't give up on each other, but I never responded. I learned that no answer is sometimes the strongest answer. Over time, the emails stopped. One night, I sat down and really reflected on everything that happened. What shocked me most wasn't just Emily's betrayal, it was how blind I had been. I wanted to believe so badly in the relationship that I ignored the red flags waving right in front of me. Every small excuse I accepted, every guilt trip I caved to, it all added up. But here's the thing. I don't regret it, because now I know better. I know the kind of love I deserve, the kind that isn't measured in money or favors, but in respect, loyalty, and honesty. And maybe that's the silver lining. Emily showed me what I don't want in a partner, which means when the right person does come along, I'll recognize them instantly. So, where am I now? Happier, stronger, and absolutely certain that cutting off Emily and her family was the best decision I've ever made. Sometimes walking away isn't a sign of weakness. It's the only way to reclaim your life. And in my case, walking away gave me everything back. Sometimes walking away really is the only way to reclaim your peace. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And hey, let us know in the comments, what would you have done in this situation?